An interesting question I met, well, not recently, quite a while ago, but I kind of didn't want to invest into it, was something like, can you be both religious and spiritual at the same time? And I said, well, I don't know why, but simply a lot of people don't dive into this too much. So I said, why not try, well, some of my own wisdom or whatever and share an answer. See, first and foremost, religion and spirituality, from a certain standpoint, they are kind of contrasting viewpoints in a way. First thing to notice, as I would take it into account, is that when you came into this world, technically you didn't sign up for either of those, right? When you came into this world, you were baptized probably, or I don't know, depends on each religion, but Christianity has baptism, and I'm not sure about the other Abrahamic religions or other religious cults, how they welcome children into life and into society. But the point is, when you were born, you did not sign up for that. And in time, your parents and people around you filled your mind with all sorts of opinions and thoughts about that specific religion. And to a certain extent, they're not necessarily the religion itself, right? There's a lot of interpretation upon that religion, which can shape some people's view on that. Like you can see a lot of people in the world saying that, the creator or whatever they call him is all loving, but Abrahamic religion have this devious idea that even if creation is all loving, you will be severely punished if you misbehave. And to a certain extent, I see that this is obnoxious, and at the same time, I feel it is purely a breach, in a way, in the set of meanings that religion is, because religions, in the end, they are a set of ideals that collectively have been agreed upon. If one dives, for example, into spirituality, well, the point is you don't need to dive into spirituality. You just see spiritual practice means you become more in tune with it, right? You become more conscious of it because when you came into this world, you did not sign up for spirituality either. Yet, still, it is an ongoing process because the multidimensionalness of your existence, well, they will have an influence upon you, whether you are fully cerebral or whether you want to open yourself to those influences and as such. They will simply exist and they will carry on their parts. They are part of your existence. But a sick society wants you to be fully physical because once you dive inside of you, the point is you start seeing some more things. You start noticing energy influences and how your emotions function sooner or later. And once you take the time, that's the point. Once you take the time to um, not introspect, because introspection is something different, but simply observe things and remember things that, for example, piss you off and ask yourself, why is it exactly that they piss you off? Because from what I see from religion in the end kind of ends up being more of a external aspect. It is an external, let's say, set of practices because you pray, you do certain things, but in the end, you pray towards someone else. You pray towards angels, spirits, I don't know, depends on religion. But the Abrahamic religions typically you pray towards creation. Now, there is nothing wrong about that, but there is a big problem from a certain standpoint because, well, one has to understand that when you pray, prayer means you invest a certain amount of energy. A lot of people, unfortunately, they don't invest that energy. They just pray mechanically. They just say those words and probably, unfortunately, just expect that someone's gonna change their life. The problem with prayer is investment of energy. How you invest that energy actually can have some influences upon you. Because when you invest upon those energies from a side of misery, for example, since a lot of people are miserable, well, you're not gonna pray to creation specifically. You may actually invite some unnecessary energies in your life. And I'm not talking necessarily about, demons and, things that are, scare a lot of people. A demon is ultimately a negative energy force, and a negative energy means something that doesn't suit you well, right? If we are to take it from a scientific standpoint, well, radiation can also be a demon because it is a energy form that, well, it doesn't suit your existence, right? So, demons are of two types. There are the natural ones and there are the created ones. And occultism can deal with these in different ways, but if not used correctly, it can cost your life. And well, there are some other repercussions, but typically people know their own stuff, or well, they're supposed to. When it comes to religion, religion means prayer, and to a certain extent, you externalize your power. The problem here is people simply don't understand one thing. Unfortunately, misery will always have you not just pray to creation, but expect that something more powerful than you will solve your problems. This is something that spirituality is opposed to in the end, because spirituality means you open yourself to all your possibilities. And enlightenment means you realize that anything in your life you have full power about. You have full power over your energies and over how you react to things. This is technically kind of the only things that you can control in the end. You cannot control outcomes in life. Yes, you can have a certain influence, but you cannot control all the variables in life because there will always be things that will overwhelm you. Either a sheer number of things that happen or something that you will require a lot of resources and time to deal with. And spirituality is something that allows you to understand slowly and surely your own energies, allows you to open yourself towards intuition and function from higher perspectives of life. Now, this doesn't mean that through religious aspects one cannot reach such things, because there is a certain tangency in between things. The problem is a lot of people are miserable, and the problem is when they are miserable, people will always do things mentally because they don't have the patience. Yes, misery means you don't have the patience for anything. Patience is the first thing that misery strips from you, because when you are miserable, you want everything now. You are pained and you want a solution now. A lot of people expect creation to simply do something magical and solve all their problems. The problem is with your life, if it is shitty, even if creation solves all your problems, well, you have a karmic tendency to create all sorts of problems again. Hopefully, that someone will give you the attention yet again by solving your problems. See, creation gave you, awareness capabilities. It gave you free will. So you have full power over whether you want to invest your whole life into misery or into your own salvation. Salvation can come through prayer and spiritual practices, or it can come through religious as well. But the problem with religion and a lot of people is they perceive religion as something external. When you externalize your power, you're not being religious at all, you're just being idiotic. Because when you externalize your power, thinking that you're giving your energy to God, God doesn't need your energy. God is almighty as religions present them. Yeah, right? Creation is infinite, it doesn't need your energy. It uses its own infinite energies to constantly expand this creation. It uses powers way beyond your imagination. It doesn't need you as a warrior or mujahideen or whatever you call yourself if you want to be one. It doesn't need you to fight for believing in creation, because ultimately all the Abrahamic religions typically are a bit dummy because they kind of believe in the same way, but their set of beliefs are so, in a way, foundationally different. But ultimately, they believe in kind of the same thing, which is the source, right? But source is a bit wrong to call it because it means in a way that it has a geographical location or something like that. It doesn't. It's present everywhere because everything in the end is a result of creation, so it is a bit of creation, right? So I simply can't accept religious ideas that I have to grant my energy toward an almighty God. An almighty God doesn't need me as a warrior. It doesn't need me to pray towards him. It doesn't need me to do anything. And there's always two possibilities when it comes to the creation, right? Religiously or non-religiously speaking. When it comes to creation, creation is unconscious because if it were conscious, it means it had a awareness, and well, it does have an awareness, but it would have a discriminatory mind if it were conscious. If it had a discriminatory mind, it would mean it would function in the duality of I like and I don't like. Creation simply creates. It doesn't function in the principalities of a discriminatory mind. So, lacking a discriminatory mind, creation doesn't know you exist. It just creates and expands, right? Now, let's say creation actually knows who you are and knows you to the deepest of your potential. I would say creation would think of you that you're more or less a failure if it just believes some sets of beliefs instead of going going full throttle with life and simply understanding the foundation of what you are. Once you understand at least a bit of the foundation of what you are, there will be no more questions about what does the other gender function like, what does the other gender like, how can I impress other people, because once you know how you function, you know there's a very great similarity in between you and how the others function. The only difference is emotional and mental output. Because everyone has their own set of experiences, their mind and their logics will function based off of that. And logic doesn't mean necessarily the truth. Because once you live for a very long time in a narcissistic environment, for example, your perception about truth in life will be quite crippled, one may say. Now, when it comes to religion and the such, well, prayer means something different than a lot of people might think. See, a lot of people, when they pray, they just expect creation to solve their problems. Prayer means you internalize. That's a point. Because in terms of spirituality, you have mantras. A mantra is not something logical, it is a set of sounds that you utter. But the point is, one needs to utter those sounds in mental silence because a mantra is supposed to be used as a tool to distance yourself from the mind. When one distances themselves from the mind, emotions will also become less and less. They will trouble you a bit less. Yes, the mind will keep going on, there will be thoughts going on through your mind, but using your power to not get attached to those and not react to those, you just let those thoughts go by. They're just like a river. It's not worth trying to stop the river because it will overflow and it will keep flowing through other parts. Yes? And if you haven't noticed yet, try an experiment where you try to simply cancel some of your thoughts and you do it for a long period of time. You will see the more you cancel those, the more you'll be overwhelmed by those because that's how the mind functions. And that's a perverted way that religions have been used in the sense that you're not allowed to say this, you're not allowed to say that, and now you have cancel culture which also enhances a lot upon that. And the more you negate things in people's behavior, the more perverted their mind becomes. And I'm not talking about sexual perversions only. So the problem with religion is a set of beliefs. Whatever they present, the virtues they present and the such, unfortunately they are a set of beliefs. The problem is they can be used and altered because a meaning is just like a physical tool. A physical tool is obviously an end result, but there can be changes to it. It can be adapted to use something different. A religion may say, well, love thy neighbor, like, for example, Christianity says, but it doesn't mean that, in the misery and ignorance of humanity, which was typical of all societies for the thousands of years we have been living as, let's say, more modern societies, it doesn't mean that such a religion wouldn't end up saying that, because of misery, they are the enemy, where the good guys, let's kill the bad guys, right? And you can see throughout the history, Islam had its own share of, conquest and misery and terror and all sorts of things. Christianity had its own parts. Judaism also had its own parts. So none of the religions you can tell me that are more saintly. But if you corrupt your inner world with so much meaning and the such, the problem is the more meaning you put in your mind, the harder it will be to focus on things because those ideas of the mind will constantly seek to revalidate themselves, else, they will slowly and surely dwindle and they will become less important. And well, that's another topic for another subject, but in another video, yes. And when it comes to internal work, well, prayer is also an internal work in a way. But a prayer, if you do it in the right way, in a conscious way, not in a mechanized way, a prayer means you open yourself to creation, right? You're not requesting something of creation, because when you look at misery and religion, there will be two main quotes, right? It doesn't matter whether it's Islam or whether it is Judaism or Christianity. There will always be two main quotes: God, why me, victimization, and God, please, yes, which is a request. A request means inferiority, right? In an unconscious way, you admit that you are inferior, because when you ask something of someone, in a way you're kind of inferior because you're not capable of dealing with something, so you require help. And when you're miserable, the problem is when you require help, you admit in a way that you're miserable, the obsession for control will kick in and it will make you feel even more miserable. So instead, you're not requesting something, you're kind of expecting it. Unhealthy expectations lead to easy disappointments, so it will spiral back into, the death and decay that, misery is all about. Because misery is nothing else but, a slow suicide, a slow but sure suicide in the end, where people, just die slowly and surely, right? So when you open yourself to creation, in the sense that you welcome something, you don't just request it. You just open yourself to creation the way you are, the way you simply are, and you simply make a welcoming request. When you make it in a conscious way, you don't need to worry whether you will survive long enough till it happens, because it is a kind request, and well, maybe there will be fortunate events that will lead you to that. The purity of one's inner being can actually, let's say, attract miracles in a one way or another. Now, don't think about silly new ideas that you find nowadays that the whole universe will conspire for you. The universe, yet again, doesn't know who you are or what you are. You're just like a little fart in time compared to the time of the universe. When the universe has 13 billion life, 13 billion years, as per what our science says, a human life is not even like a fart. It's, just nothing. It doesn't even matter. To the planet, to a tree, for example, you're probably just like a fart in your human life. It's something that happens, you enter your life. If you're a miserable fuck, you're just gonna cry a lot or whatever, and you're just gonna make some noise and you're gonna vanish, right? That is basically a lot of miserable people's lives. And well, that's just it. When it comes to prayer or internal work, you just open yourself to creation. Creation is infinite, it has all the potential in the world. You don't need to open yourself with all your misery, because creation gave you free will. And as I said, life is all about one single choice. Do you choose liberation or do you choose misery? Misery comes with the illusion of comfort, because it's much easier to be comfortable, or to imagine your comfort, and to imagine that you're comfortable and also embrace that comfort and the sickness that comes with suffering and calling it your comfort zone. Or you simply choose liberation, where in liberation you have a lot of freedom. Why do you think a sick society wants you to be sick and to invest all your energy in sickness? Because when you do that, you become miserable. In misery, you want everyone else to suffer. So you basically become a policing force for society. So society can easily focus on its dark agendas while you simply police others into the misery of life, right? So a sick society's only purpose is to make sure that all people are programmed to self replicate misery, right? To replicate misery within themselves and also enforce that upon others. Religion and spirituality should both be paths that lead towards one's liberation. Whether you want to live life as serving a god, or whether you want to live life by unveiling different aspects, different energy levels and understanding within you, both sides should be an enlightenment. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to corrupt spirituality because spirituality is all about things that are beyond the mind, which religion is not. When you perceive religion, you perceive it through the set of meanings that they are. Meanings mean a certain logic and obviously mental ideas because you have to memorize things and you make use of those pieces of data and the virtues. You perceive them mentally as, what they are, definitions, how to behave, how to enhance them, how to how to make use of those, how to embody those, right? And the emotional outcome that comes with that. Spirituality doesn't rely on necessarily on logics because spirituality means understanding and opening yourself to forces that are way beyond your logics. But typically, spirituality requires someone to shepherd you in that because you can easily get lost. Religion is a bit safer side because, well, you need to learn some ideas and scribblings from books and you need some prayers, but the only important thing is that you do those prayers in a conscious way where you don't just stupidly expect things from higher forces. Because when you do that, you're gonna do it from a miserable standpoint. When you do it from a miserable standpoint, it means you have a very low energy. What religion may not explain to you necessarily is that when you pray, you have to raise your level, which is much easier done by spirituality. You have to raise your level to reach creation because creation is never going to lower its energy levels or vibration towards you. So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. Take care, enjoy life, and well, this being said, Ferenjan Power signing out.